Hello, everyone. Welcome back to On the Fly. Today, we're taking a look at a variety of trades that have happened over the course of today's day. It's been a hectic day full of many, many trades, and we'll break them down here today. Let me know down below whether you want to see a one-on-one style video like we used to do, or if we should do more of these. Obviously, we're heading towards the March 3rd trade deadline, which means there's going to be a lot more trades, a lot more busy days. So let me know if you want to see a video for each trade, or if you want to see stuff like this where we take into account all the trades over the day and grade them and sort of give a brief overview of why they made the moves into one condensed video. But with that being said, we'll hop right on into it today, starting with some pretty crazy trades. And we're going to start off here with the first trade of the day. It was one that happened fairly early this morning between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Edmonton Oilers. So Jesse Puljujarvi is a Carolina Hurricane now, with the Edmonton Oilers acquiring Patrick Puistola. So with this being said, it wasn't one of those deals where obviously Puljujarvi's lost a lot of his status in terms of what he's been able to do. Really struggled with the Oilers all year, asked for a trade out. And this was probably a move that many could have expected, not really getting too much value in return for him. However, for the Hurricanes, I love this deal. High risk, high reward asset. And when we look at it like that, I mean, you can't ask for much more. You know, you get a player in Carolina. Yes, he's making $3 million, so it's a little bit against the cap of what you want to be. But at the same time, Carolina is a team that already looks pretty good. And when you have a player that hasn't quite performed, new change of scenery, who knows what he's going to be able to do. And I look forward to seeing what Puljujarvi can do out there. As for the Oilers, you get a prospect back, and I don't see too much value in terms of that. I think it's more just something that they can say, yeah, we got something for him. But at the same time, I really, really do like the deal for the Carolina Hurricanes. And if we're going to give them a trade grade here, we're going to try and move through these fairly quickly here. But with that being said, I'm going to give Carolina Hurricanes here an A- for the deal. Edmonton Oilers, I'm going to give them a C. I think they could have got a little bit more value than Puistola, but at the same time, not too much of value here. But with that being said, we'll move on along here to the next deal. We're not going to look too far in this one. Henry Thrun and 2024 third round pick. It was a deal that happened today. We don't really cover deals that don't affect the NHL. This deal won't affect the NHL for a few years. Good deal for the Sharks, good deal for the Ducks. Both teams get what they're looking for. We'll move on along here to one of the big deals of today, with the Minnesota Wild acquiring Marcus Johansson in exchange for a 2024 third round pick. That's Marcus Johansson going back to the Minnesota Wild. And this deal is quite the deal. And obviously, for many that don't know, Marcus Johansson, not necessarily the best, most skilled player, but at the same time, he provides quite a bit of veteran leadership. He's been there, he's done that with a variety of different teams. And we look at Johansson, what he brings that third, fourth line style game. He's a rough, gritty type grinder where you're going to get him every night. He's going to give you 100%. And for me, I'm a big fan of this pickup for the Wild, especially as a team who right now is sort of borderline. Obviously, they've took on a few contracts, got some draft capital, but at the same time, they're a team that I expect to at least make the playoffs this year, if not go far in it. So I'm very curious to see how much of a factor Marcus Johansson's going to play. I really, really like the deal. As for the Capitals, they get a third round pick back, very solid, especially for a third line guy, fourth line guy. I really do like the pickup for the Capitals, getting some value back for a guy that was most likely going to leave at the end of this. But at the same time, in terms of trade grades here, I'm going to give the Minnesota Wild here a B+, as well as the Washington Capitals a B+ as well. I think both teams got pretty good value in return, and I am definitely thinking that it's an equal deal. Obviously, there's no clear winners here, but at the same time, it's a very equal deal where both sides are going to reap the benefits of this trade. Now we're going to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs, and this is one of the main reasons why we have to do this video into multiple parts today, as the Leafs decided to go absolutely berserk. We have 3 trades within about 20 minutes or so of each other, where we started off with a really odd deal where we saw Erik Gustafsson and a 2023 first round pick, which was Boston's pick that Washington acquired in the Orlov and Hathaway deal, where we saw that the Capitals trading the Leafs a first round pick. That's right, the Capitals sending the Leafs, a playoff contender, cup contender, you could argue is one of the favorites, trading the first round pick, getting a first round pick. So with that being said, very, very interesting deal today from the Leafs. I expect that first round pick to be used somewhere else. Where that is, who knows? At the same time, there's been a lot of rumors going around where the Leafs are trying to go. But Erik Gustafsson, what you're looking at him is a very, very physical defenseman, which the Leafs have been looking for. He's going to take care of both sides of the game. He has a little bit of offensive edge. I don't really see him cracking too many ice minutes, but at the same time, when we look at the Washington Capitals, I am a big fan of this deal for them. They get Rasmus Sandin, and Sandin's a player, yes, who's right now you see 1.4. He has one more year at the end of his deal. Then he's an RFA. And the truth is about Sandin, he's one of the most underrated defensemen in the league right now. He has so much potential to grow. And I really think when you look at a team like Washington, who's sort of in that rebuild, we've seen them start to sort of send away their picks. I think this Sandin deal is going to be one of those deals they look back on and say, wow, we really pulled that one off. I'm a big fan of it for the Capitals. The Leafs, however, I am still sort of concerned about why they would trade for a first round pick. It's Boston's pick, so you can assume it's going to be a late round pick this year, especially because just the way the standings work right now, Boston's looking like they're going to be the President's Trophies winners, which means they get an easier first round matchup, which basically just means they're going to have that later round of a pick. So we'll see sort of what goes on there if that pick ends up getting traded. I would expect that to be traded, but at the same time, the Leafs always seem to surprise me this time of year. So with that being said, that was the first deal of today. Then shortly after, there was two trades sort of back to back. They didn't really happen one or the other, but we'll start here just in order of cap friendly, the way they have it, with Pierre Engvall becoming a New York Islander. $2.25 million is what they've shed off, and he's a UFA at the end of the year, as well as the Leafs acquiring in exchange for him a 2024 third round pick as well. This was on the back-to-back, was the Leafs are acquiring defenseman Luke Schenn, $850K, in exchange for a 2023 third round pick. So this is quite an interesting deal. Obviously, the Leafs are trying to shed some cap. They can bring Murray back off the LTIR. But at the same time, this is one of those deals where it's sort of suspect. I'm still very curious to see what they do with that first round pick. I think when we look at the Leafs, obviously now they've got all these defensemen coming in, Schenn, Gustafsson, and then everyone else they've been going after, obviously with McCabe as well that they just brought in. I'm curious to see how they're going to work around that. Obviously, the Leafs sort of have a sort of story tale that they never have good defensemen. So this is sort of their way of trying to address it. I think they've brought in a lot more defensemen than what they think they have. But at the same time, obviously playoff time comes around. Depth is extremely important, especially when injuries start to happen. So with that being said, Luke Schenn is a Toronto Maple Leaf. Engvall is out. Murray will be activated off LTIR very, very soon. And really, if we look at it, what it really is just Luke Schenn for Pierre Engvall, because it's 2023 third round pick for Luke Schenn, and the Leafs get that third round pick in exchange for Pierre Engvall. So one of those deals where it's sort of just flipping picks, but at the end of the day, it's really Luke Schenn for Pierre Engvall is what this deal is. And it is an interesting deal. Obviously, you're shedding some cap. You're getting a defenseman, which, I mean, the Leafs obviously are trying to get more of. Trading away Rasmus Sandin, I'm curious about, but at the same time, I think the Leafs have one more big move coming, whether that's a Gavrikov, whether that's who knows who else. Could be Chychrun, although I would have expected Sandin to be a part of a Chychrun deal. We'll sort of see what goes on there, but I am curious to see. In terms of trade grades for all these deals, obviously, Capitals, big fan of it. I'm going to give them an A+. Leafs, sort of on the suspect side. I'm not going to grade the Leafs side of that trade quite yet for one reason, because I expect them to trade that. And I think if they don't trade it, it's going to be a really bad trade. I don't understand why they would trade Sandin, who's really just an underrated player on the Leafs, a really solid defenseman, lockdown kind of guy, plays both ways, fast, skilled, but at the same time, they have something cooking. I'm looking forward to seeing what that is. Gustafsson isn't quite to the level of Sandin. So if the Leafs don't do anything with anything else in that deal, it's probably going to be about a D for them. But at the same time, if they can make something happen, I'm not going to grade it yet. Depending on what they can bring in, you're looking at a B+, A, depending on what you can bring in. So we'll take a look at that a little bit later. But with that being said, we'll take a look at the Pierre Engvall, Luke Schenn deal. I think it's a good deal for them. They get to activate their goalie Matt Murray back off of LTIR. So I think it's a good deal. Engvall is unfortunately the casualty, 2.25, really hefty contract. I'd be curious to see if Hall or Kerfoot also go in the next deal. I mean, if they're going to bring in a guy like Chychrun or anyone with a high cap hit, that's what's going to have to happen. So we'll sort of see what goes on else there. But with that being said, we'll move on along to the next big deal, not Rushoff. We're not talking about that one either today. But with that being said, it was Matthias Ekholm at 4% retained as well as a 2024 6th-round pick going to Edmonton in exchange for Tyson Barrie, Reed Schaefer, 2023 1st-round pick, and a 2024 4th-round pick. Now, this was one of those deals where it's very, very interesting to see. You have Tyson Barrie, an offensive-minded defenseman, who's really been a staple in Edmonton. He's found his game after with the time with Leafs. And it's one of those deals where I was pretty surprised to see what the cost was. Reed Schaefer's still a pretty good player, good prospect, and it's a 2023 1st-round pick, Tyson Barrie as well. So I'm curious to see sort of what goes on there, if the Edmonton Oilers are done yet. I sort of see them being done. I don't see them making too many more moves. But at the same time, the Preds win yet another deal. And Poile, yes, he just took off. But when we look at what he's done since he left, the Jeannot deal, getting 5 picks, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, been very impressed with him after his time after leaving. Obviously, he sort of butchered the Niederreiter deal, getting a 2nd-round pick in return. But we'll sort of see what else. If the Predators do anything else, I think we're just about done with them. There might be 1 or 2 more guys to go. But at the end of the day, the Predators have done quite well this deadline, got a lot of picks, a lot of draft capital. So we'll see if they'll be able to capitalize on that. But with that being said, we'll give the trade grades for this one. Ekholm, I got to say, just the amount that they've given up for a guy like Ekholm, yes, he's really, really good. But at the same time, for me, it's too much. I'm going to give the Edmonton Oilers a C- for this deal. The Predators get an A for me. You get a prospect. You get a 2023 1st-round pick. You get a 4th-round pick. I think it's, especially in a loaded draft class, and with Edmonton not necessarily being a lock quite yet. Obviously, the Western Conference is pretty tight. I'm a big fan of the deal for the Predators. I'm going to give them an A. Last deal here, yes, the Patrick Kane deal. We already made a video on that, a full video. We made it before everything else happened because it went live, so be sure to check that. Link will be in the description down below. But the last deal here will be Gustav Nyquist, 50% retained, 2.75, going to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for a 2023 5th-round pick. So this deal I am a big fan of for the Wild. Obviously, Nyquist is a solid player. He's been there. He's done that last year of his contract. Rental type guy. I don't know if he'll sign. We'll see if he does. But at the same time, Gustav Nyquist going to the Wild, a playoff contender at that. I expect him to do quite well. And I think that's sort of what the Wild are doing. Obviously, we saw them get some draft capital early, take on some picks, and then they start to trade that off for players that they actually want to use for the coming playoffs. So I've been very impressed with the Wild sort of strategy there. Obviously, they're one of the more cap efficient teams so far we've seen, but at the same time, good trade. I'm a big fan of the trade for the Wild. 2.75 is a steal, obviously, for Nyquist, and only after giving up a 5th-round pick. I really do like the deal. The Wild, I'm going to give an A. The Blue Jackets, I'm going to give probably about a B. I think Nyquist could have got a little bit more. Obviously, it's a bad contract. I'm at 5.5, but at the same time, good deal overall. It's one of those deals where, yeah, it's not great, but it's not terrible. The Blue Jackets get some decent value in return for a guy that probably wasn't going to come back. So overall, great deal for both sides there. I think the Wild come out as the winners of that deal. But with that being said, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. If you'd like to drop a like, if you realize, consider subscribing, tell all your friends and comment down below your thoughts on the trades. Until next time, see ya.